You had emailed me earlier, right?
Yes, that was me. Just asking a little bit more about it. Yeah.
But you were also asking if this was going to be a horror
Well,
writers
yeah,
meeting?
I was reading a little bit more about. I saw you on LinkedIn and things, and I know that's a strong genre for you. So I think I saw somewhere that it was um, that some of the things you do is really pertains to the horror genre. But I was fine either way. I was curious.
Well, I do host a horror writers and filmmakers Zoom meeting on the fourth Monday of the month.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Excellent.
So that'll be posted again. And
Sure.
we'll, so do
Yeah.
you,
Have you been doing the Zoom meetings long?
since the beginning of May.
Oh, okay. So fairly new.
So my third month.
Good.
So it just depends, how many people show up. Of course, we had more the first month, and I don't know if it's the heat or whatever. People would rather be outside. Where are you from?
So I'm based in the New York area. I live about an hour north of New York City. Yep. And where are you from?
I'm an hour south of Toronto.
Oh, south of Toronto. Okay.
So between Toronto and Niagara Falls, you have to take this big bridge to go over my city,
Oh, I think I know it.
Hamilton.
My sister lived up in Toronto for a couple of years when her husband was stationed there for business. So we used to go up a lot. So we took that drive. I was fortunate enough to time it once with the Toronto Film Festival, and got up there to see some films and see the town kind of alive with that festival.
So my city has three bodies of water: a marsh, a bay, and then Lake Ontario. So I've made two indie feature films, one in the marsh and one in the bay with creatures.
Yeah, I didn't get much time, but I did see you on IMDb, and I got a chance to take a look at a couple of things while I was working, of course. Um, and yeah, it seems like a lot of fun. Seems like some good stuff there.
So I'm working on a couple of horror scripts and also a Hallmark Christmas mystery script.
Oh, really? I'll tell you that Hallmark Channel really has found a niche. You know, a lot of those shows or those movies kind of very formulaic, right? But they know what feels right, and it's just kind of like a successful show. My wife watches them sometimes, and I walk in the room and I get caught up in them. It's just there's some pure kind of basic aspect to those, which is kind of it's almost like um, chicken soup for the soul kind of thing. Anyway, so the Hallmark one that you're doing, uh, it's kind of written for that channel or that type of channel or that type of audience. Is that kind of what
Yes,
you're? Yep.
yes. So it's a Christmas mystery.
Yep. Good. So hey,
Now,
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you a
yes.
little bit about myself, and it's probably going to be very disappointing in that, as old as I am at 58, starting what I'm going to call getting ready to start the third act of my life, maybe. I'm starting to plan on. I'm in the business world, so I work in sales and marketing, and I've always loved writing, but always just did it as a hobby. And on business flights, I'd flip up the keyboard, the laptop, and write away, and just I don't do anything with it. But I'm looking as a hobby at minimum to start getting more serious about it. I've been doing a lot of online learning, been working on some memoir kind of stuff, and also a script idea that I have, and it's just such early stages that I don't have a whole lot of experience to bring to the table. just soaking it in, learning. I love indie films, art house films. I've been to so many different film festivals in my lifetime. Um, I have a couple of clubs here with my friends. We watch hundreds of films a year together, and now we're doing them remotely, of course. But it's what I love, and I want to learn a lot more about it, really. So that's kind of my story. I was an extra on a couple of things, and just for hobby's sake, and that kind of, got me more excited about just just being part of it, just being involved, just learning more about it. And I'm even interested at some point. There's a couple of schools here that are very strong with their film school divisions, and um, happy someday to help them out. If I can learn enough about it. So anyway, uh, early stage for me. Just listening and learning is really what I'm doing.
Well, I certainly have some resources that you should tap into.
Okay.
There's all kinds of free webinars on script writing right now on websites. And have you heard of roadmapwriters.com?
I have not. No.
So roadmapwriters, all one word.com.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a number of free webinars back in May and June, and then on their website they've got them listed, and also a lot of writers, filmmakers that talk about how they have progressed in their career, and those are free. Then they
Mm-hmm.
also have some workshops and webinars that you have to pay for, but they're
Yep.
very inexpensive.
Well, great. Yeah, I made a note of that. Good to know. One of the things I was asking on, and I was on Reddit, and did you post something on Reddit? That might have been where I
Yes.
saw you. Okay.
Yeah.
And, I would ask people to, for script writing software or organizing script ideas, what do they typically use? What's out there? And I know with the kind of industry, there's a couple that the industry kind of looks at as standard, but that was the other question I had. Is there something out there that, is that would help as well, just from a learning and structure perspective?
Now, another resource that you should go and check into is inktip.com.
Okay.
And you can sign up for their newsletter. You can get it free. Like I pay for it, and I get it Thursday. I guess after 5 o'clock, I get the email, and they have at least 6 producers looking for scripts. But since you don't have anything written right now, you should just get the newsletter to
Yep.
find out what producers are looking for.
Yep.
And so many of them are looking for, well, horror scripts that are 2 to 3 characters and 2 to 3 locations,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the 2 that I'm writing right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting kind of set of parameters, because it's a very intense story. Generally, those could be lower budget, right? They could be easier to make or produce, but I think it's been proven that just limiting the number of characters or the locations clearly doesn't limit the compelling aspect of the story. I mean, there's a lot of great examples about that. So I think that makes sense.
Oh yes.
Yeah, good stuff. So, I'd love to learn a little bit about, a little bit in terms of your path here, because you actually went and wrote, directed, produced some films. At some point, you made a leap to do that, right? So for me, I'm thinking, you know, a couple of script ideas I have, some of them play very well for a short. And um, one of my thoughts was, for an experience perspective, potentially connecting with some film students in the area that are looking for experience, looking for things to put on a reel. and collaborating with them, um, just to go through the process and actually see something through fruition, not necessarily planning to market it or sell it, but go through that process, feel it, see it, learn from it, um, hopefully without spending much. Again, hence the working with others that are looking to also gain experience. Any thoughts about that track or path? And how did you ultimately get to a spot where you could say, "Hey, I'm actually going to make something, and I'm going to do it myself"?
Well, I was a long time member of a local film group.
Hmm.
So, since you're, near New York, I would check out any uh, local film groups and also acting, like you said, actor groups
Hmm.
or theater groups that someone may have a camera, because all of my actors in my four feature films were local theater actors. I
Okay.
would go and see them on stage to check them out,
Yep.
because I figured if they can remember a 2 hour theater script, which you should know if you're going to be
Hmm.
on stage a lot,
Yep.
to know when other people what other people are saying and doing in case they flub and you have to come in fast. So if they can remember all that, then it's no problem for them to remember a couple of pages that
Yep.
you're going to ask them to do 3 or 4 times for the camera.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And then in that particular case, I mean, uh, from an equipment perspective and all of that, I mean, just kind of came together. You knew people through networking and other people that wanted to be involved in a project like that.
Well, it turned out that my first well, he was a DOP for all 4 of my movies. He was an instructor in a college in Toronto.
Hmm.
And so he had access to all the equipment on the weekend. Plus, he had film students that needed to have credit. So it was a win-win situation. I would have to go, I think, Friday afternoon to Toronto, of course, in rush hour,
Yep.
and pick up the equipment. And then first thing Monday morning, I'd have to go back to Toronto and drop it off at his school.
Sure. Sure.
So
And some of his students ran the cameras for you and did that
yes,
work. Yeah, that's
yeah,
nice.
and the sound and all of that,
Yeah.
and then also some of the people from the film group helped
Yep.
because they were experienced also.
Sure.
And then, like I said, there's no problem for getting actors because I had been helping in theater for 20 years or whatever.
Yep.
um, I was helping mainly as script assistant because I was also interested in writing my own plays. I did write one, and it was produced for a fringe festival that we had here a few years back. But
Excellent. Yeah.
for starting out, and there is groups on Facebook for independent filmmakers, and to let people know, I'm here just outside of New York, and I'd like to get a group together who has some equipment. I have a script and looking for actors because like I said, I would go and watch these actors
Yep.
perform. Well, most of them would be in the productions that I would be script assistant at. So I would get to know them because, well, especially for, well, the first one was 80 minutes long, the first film. So, that takes a while to film. And so you have to get along with these people, and they have to be able to trust you to direct them. Again,
Yep.
are you going to be just writing it, or you thinking of directing it and help produce it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it depends. If we're talking about a short, just to get myself experience throughout it, I would probably say writing and directing, but everything technical. Um, would be left out, right? I'd need somebody really good from a cinematography perspective. And then when it comes back to putting it all together and editing, need somebody skilled as well, right? So again, I'm looking at initially as a hobby and kind of a passion and a learning experience. Where I go after that obviously depends, but I'm just thinking out loud at this point as far as, you know, what are some small steps I can take, uh, you know, to learn, get my hands kind of on some things. And I was thinking kind of the student path probably makes sense.
So my first feature film, um, I had been sick at home after getting the flu shot, and I was staying up late watching Lake Placid. Do you know the movie with Betty White,
Yes.
and she's feeding cows to crocodiles,
Yep.
major crocodile? Well, and then I had a brainstorm, and I said, I'm going to make a movie about monster carp in Coots Paradise, where I live, eating people. So 2 years later, the movie came out. So that was in December when I came up with the idea that next year I took all kinds of courses that I could, wherever I could. Well, there's this place in Toronto, it's called LIFT, Liaison of Independent Filmmakers of Toronto. And they had all kinds of courses besides, well, script writing I was taking at Ryerson University, but stuff, about directing and lighting. I wasn't going to get into editing at
Yep.
all. And but all of those other things that you should have a little bit of knowledge,
Hmm.
so that when you get your crew, you know what questions to ask them, and
Right.
know if anybody's doing anything really bad.
Right. Right. Good
Like,
point.
like they lied about their resume or their
Sure.
experience or whatever, and obviously don't know what they're doing. So and then that fall at the film group, I met my director of photography, and then I like, I've been running this women's business group for 30 years in the region, so I was very well known to everybody, and so I was able to ask for a lot of favors. And the first day of shooting was February 29th, which was Leap Day, and it was at the marsh. The water's supposed to have been frozen, but of course it was starting to melt. And I think they charged $50,000 a day to film there, so I got it for free. And got everybody who was there, and had to have a tent, and got my husband to bring our generator to run electricity and things like that for the first day of shooting, because the opening scene is outdoor skating on this marsh, where they come upon this gigantic jaw in ice, that it turns out to be one of the monster mutant carps.
That's awesome. And you've done 4, right?
Yes.
Um, and of all of them, which one has kind of fared the best out there in terms of, some type of cult following of some sort? Which one do you think, out of the 4, uh, kind of stand out in your mind?
Well, all the first 3 through my first distributor got onto Netflix, and then Vampire Dentist has been the most sales for me, of DVDs through Amazon. But recently, it's been the third one, Marina Monster, the shark one,
Yep.
that has been selling more on Amazon.
Yeah. So growing up, were these your favorite types of films as well, or you developed that later?
Oh no, well, when I was, I don't know how old I was. I used to go with a friend uptown in Hamilton, and we'd go to the theater every Saturday and watch all these horror movies and space movies and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with all those kind of monster things. And like I said, living with these three bodies of water, I came up with
Yeah.
the two creature features, and then vampire dentist. I was in my dentist chair getting my teeth cleaned, and I don't know how I came and made the comment, well, who looks after vampires' teeth? Because they've got teeth and fangs and all that. And then I said, a vampire dentist. So a year later, that's when I started filming that on Halloween at our a nearby park. And now that movie is historical because we filmed in these little greenhouses, and they tore down the greenhouses and built one big greenhouse. And we filmed in a tropical house, which they've torn down. And then the year before, they built a giant tropical house. And then they cut down most of the trees and bushes where we had the vampires jumping out and grabbing people.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, just so wait, is the dentist a vampire, or he's a regular dentist that services vampires?
No,
No
it's
spoiler
about,
alert. I'm betting he wasn't a vampire in the beginning, but maybe he was at the end.
no, he comes, the vampire dentist comes in to take over the night shift
Okay.
to serve as vampires.
I gotcha.
So it's a 24-hour dental office, humans during the day and vampires at night.
So, um, uh, all of these showed up on Netflix.
Yes, through my first distributor.
Oh, wow. Great. That's fun. I mean, so you got uh, uh, next steps. I mean, you mentioned already you're working on one of these, a horror script that is kind of fits that profile that you saw folks looking for. Um, and have you been doing those four you did over a course of how many years? You've been doing it one every couple of years kind of thing? 2, 3 years?
Well, the first one I started in February of 2004. So that came out in 2006. And then Vampire Dentist came next, and that was filmed in October of 2004. And that came out in 2006. And then Marina Monster started filming, I think, in May of 2005. But I didn't do the fourth one, Days of the Iguanas, until 2013. But I'm not producing anymore. I'm just writing. And so I have written 8 feature scripts and 3 television pilots that I'm all adapting to novels.
Well, excellent. And which was the one with the carp? That was the Day of the Iguanas?
No, that's
Oh,
Shark
Sharp
Teeth.
Teeth. Yeah, I see that.
Shark
Okay.
Teeth.
Yep. Yeah. Very cool.
So Days of the Iguanas, I filmed the B-roll in Cuba, and then we green screened it with the actor in Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
So that was entirely different.
Very interesting. Well, hey, so and so you're not producing anymore, just writing,
Yes.
and so putting all the energy into that, and that makes sense. These types of films, the lower budget films, those kinds of things, do you think they could be lucrative? You think they could, make a living, or you think it's always kind of a passion / stepping stone / something else?
Well, when I made those first 3 films, we were using a mini DV camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after, they expected HD cameras. So it wasn't filmed what the industry became. So that lost out in placing it in the marketplace because the film quality wasn't of high definition.
Okay.
So the thing is, if you're planning to market it for profit, it has to be at the top of the line with equipment. And that's another thing. When you're in your research, you have to know what is the top of the equipment, and whoever is coming in as DOP or camera person and boom, that they have that top of the equipment, so that when it gets to the editor, that they can use it, and that the broadcasters or the film distributors have that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you can't convert it up.
Yep.
And things are changing so rapidly in
Yeah.
equipment. That's why it's so expensive with the equipment. And if you can, partner with other people, then that's great.
Well, good. Great. Yeah. So, this has been great for me. I mean, you've given me a number of resources, and just listening and hearing to your journey, certainly, inspiring. Um, just to get a chance to play in this world for a little bit and see where it goes is exciting.
Now, I heard a webinar with that Roadmap Writers,
Yep.
and the gentleman, the filmmaker, if you want to write this down, he
Yep.
said to read this book, Bankroll,
Mm-hmm.
A New Approach to Financing Feature Films. And the author is Tom Malloy, Malloy.
Mm-hmm.
So I checked it out. It is on Amazon. And he said, he got all kinds of great ideas for financing his film.
No, that sounds great. Thank you.
And this gentleman, Matthew Toronto, as it turns out his last name, he got a lot of his funding through local grants.
Okay.
So you were saying your script that you're working on is a memoir?
No, I'm working on a couple of different things,
Oh.
just from a writing perspective. The
Okay.
script I'm working on is something I've been I've had in my back of my mind for a while. So I just started putting pen to paper and shaping it. So I got a ways to go on it. Looks like
So
we've
hi,
got.
John. So if
Hey,
you
John.
want to unmute yourself. So usually in the bottom left-hand corner, you're unmuted. Okay.
Am I on?
Yep, you're on. So John, where are you from?
I am from Yardley, PA.
Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm from Canada, so.
All right. Sorry I'm late.
No
I've
problem.
had all sorts of trouble with the internet, and Comcast was here fixing it, so I didn't have internet. Otherwise, I would have been here on time.
So you're a screenwriter or filmmaker?
I'm a screenwriter.
And what kind of things are you writing?
I'm currently I'm doing a lot of rewriting lately. I've got 5 scripts done in the past 6 years that I've gone back through all of them. But the latest one that I just finished was it's a dual narrative. That's a crime mystery. It's where it's got 2 plot lines. The previous plot line is done in flashbacks, and it goes in reverse, and the other one goes forward, and eventually the 2 plot lines meet in the middle of the circle. So
Now, this week until next week, the International Thriller Writers have their digital conference on. And on Saturday, they have free webinars at 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. I'm a member of them. And
yeah, but a thriller, everybody tells me that mine aren't thrillers, they're more dramas.
no, but they have, some good ideas for mystery, writing and all different kinds of writing also. So I would check into that.
Okay.
And then I had checked the Writers Guild of America. I haven't seen that they've done any webinars, but the Directors Guild of Canada, I know they have a webinar tomorrow night, and they have scriptwriters and filmmakers available to see on their YouTube channel.
What was that again?
Directors Guild of Canada.
Directors Guild of Canada. I know a lot of people are going up there to get films made, just because of the fact that it's a little cheaper to get it made.
So under their YouTube channel, they have scriptwriters and filmmakers doing interviews.
Okay. Okay, I have to remember to look at that right after we finish this.
Yeah, yes, I took training through the Directors Guild of Canada, and I had 3 assistant directing gigs, and then I got this phone call asking me to be an assistant director on the remake of Total Recall. Do you remember that movie with Schwarzenegger was in the first one? Well, thank God I didn't take it because, well, I live in Hamilton, which is an hour away from Toronto if you go first thing in the morning, Saturday or Sunday, or 2 to 3 hours if you go rush hour. So anyways, this gig was 6 days a week, 18 hours a day for 6 months in Toronto. So I was like, thank God I didn't take the job.
Yeah, I've actually had a couple of Canadian producers give me reads on my scripts and give me some feedback on them. So there's a lot of people up there. I wrote a Western, and a lot of Westerns are done in Canada because of you have a lot of country that fits into that.
And I was telling John about you should apply for the newsletter from inktip.com. Do you know about them? Inktip?
Oh, Inktip. Yeah, I know. I've done that.
No, but do you get their newsletter?
I did when I had stuff on there. I did. I don't have anything on there right now. I found, and somebody told me this, that one of the problems with my scripts is, except for the one that I submitted in the Philadelphia one and the one I just written, the first 3 I wrote are a little high budget for a independent. So the only problem I have with Inktip is that if you don't have a lower budget film, you're not going to get the kind of producers reading it that you need to have for a higher budget film. I had 3 reads on it, and all 3 loved it, but they said, John, I can't get the funding for this. And that was their exact thing. And it's not that high. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not, there's no special effects or anything. It's just locations and things like that.
Now, the other website that you can get their newsletter on, because I get 2 or 3 markets a day, is screenwritingstaffing.com.
Oh yeah, I have that one.
And those people, they're not saying they're looking for low budget.
No, some of them are. You just got to match. You just got to match what they need.
And have you put any of yours on scriptrevolution.com?
All of them are on Script Revolution.
What about?
But they're all there.
Moviebites.com.
I don't have them on Movie Bites. I have Script Revolution, Simply Scripts, Script Play Go, Blacklist. I don't have them all on the last 2. I was going to put them on StoryData.io. Most of those are pretty free.
And what was that last one?
StoryData.io. It's not .com. I had them on another one, scriptbook.io, but me and about 5 other writers, 2 have been produced, are banned from their site now because we were on a website and we were discussing it. It was just a normal discussion about it. It's a computer, it's a AI reads your scripts and rates them compared to other scripts. And I didn't get a bad rating. I got somewhere a little above average. But we were talking about, they also break characters down, and they had my male characters as females, my protagonist as the antagonist, my most lovable character as the protagonist, and things like that. And it's just funny. And we were just talking about that because the one guy actually decided to put on, he put on Searching for the Historical Jesus, a movie he wrote. And Jesus was the least liked character in the whole thing. So, I mean, so we kind of were talking about that and saying that, you know, an AI really can't do that. So they got mad and they banned all of us.
So what are the other genres that you've written?
A Western, the first one I wrote is a dramedy. The third one I wrote is a dramedy. Then I wrote a crime drama, and the last one I wrote is a crime drama mystery, I would say. It's kind of a little crossover there. The last one could be done pretty cheap, I think, because it's got about 80% of it is either filmed in a chateau or around the chateau. So it can be done in that way.
And have you tried putting them into contests?
I just put the one I wrote, the drama, the fourth one I wrote, that one I wrote specifically for the Shot in Philadelphia contest. It has all references to Philadelphia. It goes around Philadelphia. The detectives from Southeast Philly, the Italian neighborhood. The protagonists are both from the high-end neighborhood in Rittenhouse Square and in the Villanova area. So it's kind of written for that particular contest. The first script I ever wrote was called 7 Days in La Suerte. It's a dramedy. That one came in the top 20% in Nichols. So for the first one, I thought that was good. I just went back and started rewriting. I said, boy, I was pretty bad back then. How did I make 20%? The second one I wrote was the Western. That one I didn't enter much. And the third one I wrote was Get the Italian. That one I entered in the Austin, and that made the finals also. So, or the semifinals, whatever it was, the first cut, made it through the first cut. But looking back at it, I wonder why. So.
Oh, and John, if you're writing any, John Manna.
Yep.
If you're writing any short scripts, you can place them for free, the log line on inkip.com. Because I think I've got like 13 on there. And I had people asking to see the script. I haven't sold anything off of there, but now Stage 32, I have them, I have my scripts on there and my shorts. And I just had someone from London looking at one of my short scripts. So I should be hearing back from him.
Yeah, good to know. And hey, John, good to meet you. I introduced myself earlier. I've got zero experience except for writing as a hobby while I put bread on the table the last 40-something years. You know, as I look to get into maybe semi-retirement or even retirement, I'm looking to take the hobby and move it forward and just keep writing and enjoying it. So been learning about script writing, been starting a couple of things, interested in just getting experience any way I can. So we were talking about working with some of the film schools in the area. I'm not far outside of New York. I'm north of New York City. So my daughter went to Scranton.
I'm from New York originally.
Okay.
I'm from Yonkers. So
whereabouts in New York?
Yonkers.
Oh, Yonkers. Okay. I'm up in Mayapack.
Okay.
So I grew up in Valhalla. So right there. My daughter went to Scranton, Pennsylvania school. So anyway, great. I'm getting a lot of great tips from Christine, of course, and then just hearing you talk a little bit about this, you know, is helpful. How do you feel, John, about a first pass, someone like me? I'm thinking, take my idea that I've got, write as a short, try to find some film students, to help me make it, just to see the process, to feel it, to touch it, to kind of learn as much about it. What are your thoughts there versus, just plugging away at the writing part and using the sites and the things that you guys are doing and looking to see if there's interest out there?
Well, I'm kind of like you. I'm retired.
Yeah.
So what happened was when I was in college, I'm actually a phys ed major, so that's a little strange here. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
I coached football for 45 years. So when I was in college, a creative writing teacher offered me an internship in the summer with a Broadway playwright. She never told me who it was. She just said, he's a named Broadway playwright. He's looking for an intern. He's a friend of mine. I had to come back for football practice, so I couldn't take it. So I didn't take it, but I love to write. When I retired, I said, let me try this. I went right into the scripts, no idea what I was doing. I don't know how to answer that because I don't have enough experience. My sister just said, why don't you try writing a short just to get something, IMDb, that kind of thing. And I wouldn't even know how to start that because most of my stories are, like I said, are kind of big.
Yep.
So I wouldn't even know how to start that and get the whole character arc in that. I know you don't put the whole character arc in the short and things like that. So, and how many pages and everything like that. I wouldn't know how to start that. So I went with the contest thing. And like I said, the first one I sent in, I was lucky. I came in the top 20%.
Yep.
I've been rewriting it this week, and I keep saying the person who read it must have been like a 2-year-old. But
so John, how long have you been at it?
Just 6 years, that's all.
6 years. And you've got a number that you've written, a number you plan to write, you're rewriting the old ones, and the idea is you just sharpening them, getting them better, you're getting better, and you're also learning about how to get visibility to them. Like you've learned recently, some of them are too big, right, for certain outlets, and
Yep.
that's really, where you're headed now is figuring out. And then Christine, you were talking about something you're writing specifically because you've seen requests and demand from producers for a certain type of film, right? So you're now writing to kind of fit what's the market asking for right now, right?
Well, that's what I said. The horror with 2 to 3 characters, 2 to 3 locations, and then a lot through Inktip, looking for the romantic comedy, the Christmas romance. So, like I said, I'm writing the Christmas mystery.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's smart. Yeah, I'm learning a lot from the two of you. Appreciate it.
And one of the director producers that we had on this Zoom meeting the last 2 months, he has directed a Hallmark movie, and he was able to send me a script, the mystery script one. So once I finish my script, I'll see if he can send me just a Christmas romance script, because it's like a combination of the two, romance, Christmas, and mystery. So there's no murders in it. There's a lot of thefts. So it's family friendly.
A funny story about Hallmark. A guy I got in touch with through LinkedIn, which I find is a very good place to find producers and production companies and make contact with them. But he had read my script and he said, do you mind if I pass it on? So I didn't hear from him. I got back to him. And he's a pretty big guy because he was on the phone when one time I texted him and he made sure I knew he was on the phone with Tom Cruise for his next movie. But I got back to him and I said, have you sent it? He goes, listen, this is the guy's email, send it to him. So this is the dramedy, and it's a very dark dramedy. There's a lot of people who get killed in it. Although the actual murders aren't seen, there's a lot of F-bombs in it and things because it's all real dark, nasty people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it fits. It's my sister doesn't like F-bombs, and she said, John, you could not write this without them. She said it just fits. So I send it to the guy. I should have looked at the guy first on IMDb, and then I looked at IMDb. He makes nothing but Hallmark movies. So I sent him a letter after. I said, I don't know if you're going to like this. He sent me one back and said, John, it's very well written, but it's not for what we do.
Right.
It's more, these are more Coen Brothers styles. Things.
Sure. So let me ask a question to both of you. What about at this stage where you're writing and sending to people for opinions and feedback, and where is there a lot of concern about the ideas being taken, getting ripped off? I mean, sharing things. How does that work in this business as far as copyright, and how well is it? Do you look over your shoulder a little bit on that, or no?
You should copyright all of your scripts and even your short ones, because like the websites that I've told you about, you have to give them your registration number that it is copyright.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's copyright, not WGA, because WGA can't be used in court to give full damages. Copyright can.
Okay.
WGA only allows you a certain amount of.
So that's the key. You copyright it, and then as long as you're sharing it with professionals, I mean, chances are it's not going to be an issue. But
I don't think, most people are going to rob it, because if they're looking for a script and it's already written, I mean, most ideas are pretty much out there unless you have something really unique.
True.
But, it's hard to prove too. A guy was telling me that his script got robbed by a major company, and he swears it was. He gave him the script. They read it. They got back to him 3 months later and said, well, we liked the script. It didn't fit in with our writing. And he said, well, you could always buy the script. And they said, no, we're not interested. And then they came out with a movie that almost followed it step for step. But the problem was he had already signed the waiver that most of the big companies make you do. And they had so many lawyers. He ended up getting some money for it, but it wasn't the money that he would have got if they had used his script.
Sure. Okay. No, good to know. So, John, how did you learn how to format and write a script? Did you take any courses? Do you use any software for it?
I did 3 things. One, I took a course and I want to tell you, the guy was the best I had. He was an excellent teacher. Him and his wife write. His wife's been produced. He's been optioned. His full-time job is training boxers. So it's a little odd connection there. But it was at a junior college. And it wasn't so much he taught me story structure and stuff. And we talked a little bit about formatting. And he said, listen, just get one of the main things. And then this book here is always handy. I always use this. If you don't have it, this is an older version of it. I think.
Which one is it called?
Screenwriter's Bible.
Okay.
It's by John Chartier. It's all formatting. That's all it is.
Okay.
And it's excellent. And, and then I just look it up on the internet too.
Yeah.
And, he even says in there as formal as, and then I use Final Draft. I used, what was the other one that I used? The other one begins with an F. I'm trying to think of it. I used that for a little bit. And then I went to Final Draft, and I found Final Draft the easiest to use. So, And it formats everything for you. But his big thing is, listen, if you read a lot of scripts, you realize that half of them are formatted wrong. The Coen Brothers don't even bother formatting if you ever read their scripts. They have half sentences and, dialogue that goes across the whole page. But then again, they put their own money in it, so they don't have to worry about the guy who reads it doesn't like
True.
it.
Yeah.
So I did those.
That's the other thing they tell you is to read a lot of scripts. And in our electronic age, if you're looking to produce short scripts, then there would be on YouTube or on various websites, award-winning scripts and or short films that you could watch.
Yep.
And figure out how they wrote them.
Yep.
That's why I'm trying to find a Hallmark Christmas romance script, because I want to know how they put in, all the Christmas decorations or that kind of stuff, or do they or they don't put it in, or how much do they put in, and things like that. Because of what I could find on the internet is they want a lot of things to do with Christmas within the script, a lot of Christmas activities.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know how that's written up for those generic
Sure.
ones.
I think there's a couple of sites, if you just put in scripts PDF, there's a couple of sites that, if you search that, will give you a lot of scripts. And I've seen Hallmark scripts before. It just wasn't interesting, but I've seen them. But yeah, I read a lot of scripts. I read scripts that kind of relate to the kind of, like when I was doing the detective one, I was reading Chinatown and things like that. And then when I did this one, because the guy loses his memory and I'm having flashbacks where the plot goes in reverse, where the real-time plot goes forward, Memento kind of.
Momentum. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. So I read the Memento, how he does it. And I'll be honest, you talk about formatting, there's very little formatting in that script. He had lived that one.
Yeah. That I would imagine that's a tough script to read, Memento.
It's not that it's tough to read, it's just that it's, to make it understandable, he had to break all the formatting rules.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, he had to do that. By the way, we talked about formatting. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing.
Yep.
He never typed it. It's written on a pad. It's handwritten on a pad. He wrote it on a pad. So it wasn't formatted. So. But then again, we don't have the money to make the movies.
Yep.
That's the one thing, that you have to be open to notes and rewrites.
Yeah.
You can't be 100% glued to your words on the page, because, you know, you're the first person who comes up with that idea. The other people on the team, the director and the producer, and, you know, production designer, costumer, art department, they're going to have their own ideas about certain aspects of the film. And, you know, once you sell that script, it doesn't become your baby anymore. And some people have said that they want their name taken off their script because of how much they had changed it from what had been submitted to what became on the screen.
Yep. Makes sense.
My sister edits mine for me. She does it because she was a professional writer, business writer. She wrote speeches and stuff like that. So she does the grammar and the editing, because I'm the worst speller in the world and the worst punctuation. But we were talking about the one I'm writing now, which happens in the chateau, and a lot of the action, like, for example, a guy climbs out of the third floor of the chateau. If I ever do sell it, I understand they're not going to find a chateau that matches that script perfectly. I'm going to have to rewrite those scenes to fit the layout of the chateau that they find.
Right.
You know, those kind of things. So, but yeah, rewriting and stuff is good. Let me ask you guys a question. It's very up to date now. I was asking some people on the internet about this. With all this stuff now, with the BLM and everything else, the Black Lives Matter, and all the people saying, you know, got to have diversity, etc. How do you write your characters? I leave a lot of mine open. However, if you give them names, like the guy who's my detective in the Philly story is Cosmo Bertucci. That's Italian as Italian can get, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you guys do with that? Because, I mean, if you even go, a lot of those websites now ask you, is how many, you know, minorities are in it, etc., like that. So, and even I was in one contest, I put it in, and they asked that. So how do you guys handle that now? Are you leaving your characters open, or are you giving them ethnicity and race, etc.?
Well, as I was saying, that you are open to notes and rewrites, and that would mean that, just say a Chinese production company wanted to pick up your script, that they would want to change all the names to Chinese, you know, or if it was a French production company, that they would want more French named characters, that you would be open to any of that. So if you made them generic, like if it had to be a certain age, or a male, or it had to be a male or a female or a teenager, or they had to be handicapped, but or there was a specific reason why it had to be a certain ethnicity, then you would have it in your script, but then you would make it open. Now, last night at 10 o'clock on the W channel, they had the movie A Wrinkle in Time. Now, I read that as a child, and of course, my white background, I thought of all the characters white. But when I first saw the movie with that Disney made, I was shocked with all of the ethnicity that they put into that movie, which is relevant for our times. So that book and what would be that script would not have been written, for those ethnic characters. They certainly weren't in the book.
I understand that perfectly. But my question always is, like, I had a producer who was interested in my log line, because I always pick comps, and the one for 7 Days in Swarte is the Goodfellas meets the Wizard of Oz. That's the comps for that. And he loved that. So he said, I'm interested. He goes, how many African Americans, how many gays, how many this, how many that? And there are none, because it happens on the Mexican border. There's Mexicans, but it happens in a small town on the Mexican border. It just doesn't make sense with the other. Could I put a black in there? Yes, but they're white gangsters from New York. Okay. There's the Mexican cartel. There's an Albuquerque mob that's run by the women, and I made it a woman so that it really fits. I mean, I can see it, but it fits with the dramedy too, because she fits in very well. And how you probably can make the female FBI agent if you wanted to a minority, but I just put that generic. I didn't say what that was.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard with some people at times about scripts.
No, it's a good point.
So
in that Albuquerque lead, is it potentially Native American now? Do you to shift that? Does it? I do think there's going to be more interest in films that have some diversity, but I think in the other film you were talking about, if it's truly Italian-driven kind of crime film, I think you then have to go a layer deep into kind of secondary and tertiary characters, right?
And I have some in there
more
as that, but the other thing is we don't want them secondary.
They want them leads.
Have you ever saw the show Greenlight? I don't know if you've ever saw that show where they used to pick a screenwriter.
Project Greenlight?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you remember, the person they had who was the casting director in that got furious because the maid was a minority, and she wanted other minorities in there. And
I think we lost John there. He froze up.
John, I think you're frozen.
Yeah, he was saying they were having internet problems earlier. But I see his point there. It's not enough for them to be in secondary roles, especially not today. It's drastically different from even 6 months ago, right? We're seeing a transformation, across the country.
Well, across the world.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same.
Yep.
Oh, are you back?
Mute.
You have to unmute yourself, John. Unmute yourself.
I'm here. I got it.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah,
you were talking about the maid. So it's not just secondary roles, and certainly not roles of servitude. So It makes sense. The times are changing, and I think there's going to be a demand for more diversity in films. And let's face it, the folks that are buying these scripts and producing these films, some of them might be doing it for the right reasons, that they want to see the diversity, but most of them are doing it, too, because the demand is there. They need to be able to say they're making an effort, which is a good thing. So I think writers who can write to that, may see more activity. You know.
Okay.
I think
But
at
we
the
have
end
to
of the
put
day,
a parenthetical in there.
yeah.
It hesitates.
Yeah, pause. But John, my opinion, quite honestly, and I don't have a lot of experience, right? Not the experience you have, certainly not the experience Christine has, but I watch a ton of films and I go to a ton of film festivals, and I think at the end of the day, first and foremost, be true to your heart, write it the way it should be written. That would be my thought. And yeah, if there is an opportunity, it might be wise to take it, but never force it. That'd be my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you. It's like Christine was talking about writing a horror movie before. I don't watch horror movies, so I'd have a hard time writing them. I'm just not into them. You can't write something you're not into. So you have to at least be into it, and then you could, switch to that genre. But that's just me. I had a guy that I had we had like a one-on-one group, screenwriters group. We brought our scripts in, and he was a sci-fi guy, really, really wild sci-fi. And I and he got a couple of offers on his. Well, they were. They fell through at the last minute, but there were offers on his script. But I had a hard time reading it, not because it wasn't good, just because it didn't. It was hard for me to read it and interest me. And sci-fi is written in a different way, so I didn't even understand the way he was writing it because there's so many special effects in there.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So I never wrote special effects. I just said
Well,
the building.
Well, I had co-written a romantic comedy, and a producer from Western Canada approached us and asked us to rewrite it with a German aspect to it, because they were going to get a German co-producer onto the film. And so they would give us notes, and we'd have to write all this German person into the script, but then it fell through at the end. But it certainly was a learning experience about how much you have to keep rewriting, not just to please the original producer, but the co-producer who, because they wouldn't be able to make this film without the co-production money from Germany. And you hear about that, and when I always like to look at the credits to see where things are produced. And I watched a couple of movies now from Hallmark, and they've been done in Ireland, because in Ireland they have the tax credits, and it seems a lot of the editing gets done in Quebec in Canada. So they get that money, and quite a few of the Hallmark movies are done in Vancouver, because they get the BC money, tax credits there. But they say it's Portland.
Canada was big. Canada's big. I remember that because I've been approached by a couple of people from Canada on different scripts, and I'm wide open. They go, the Western one. Guy said this is the best place to make westerns. They're either made there or they're made in Poland. Most of the westerns nowadays, so that because it's too expensive to make in the United States. So, actually, one guy was telling me, who was talking about my western, said in Germany, he said you can find 10 western towns that were built for films specifically in one area. Because there's 3 towns in my movie that are different towns. So, sometimes that's hard for them to find them. And then they got to travel in the United States. Over there, they just go from one to the other. It's actually set up for that. Poland is big now. If you ever look on Netflix, look how many Polish movies there are. They're big. Mexico's big. I just got an article on Mexico saying, don't rule out Mexico if you have a script. And the other one is, what's the one? It's in South America. I'm trying to think if it's Brazil or Argentina. It's one of the ones around there, though, and they're big also now in making movies. They're giving so many tax credits and everything else that producers can't not do it, So, yeah, definitely.
I watched a horror movie called Crawl about these alligators during a hurricane in Florida, but it was filmed in the Balkans. I can't remember if it was filmed in Romania or Bulgaria, but in one of those Balkan countries. And I guess they had the palm trees or the green screen to be able to do this kind of movie. So
Yeah, there's a lot of those countries want to become. It's cheap for them because there's so much undeveloped land for a lot of those things. So they can do a lot of those things. China's getting big now too. A guy named John Yu, I think you pronounce it, Liu. He got in touch with me. I sent all my scripts to him. He didn't like any of them because his basic thing is that he has to be able to produce a version for America and a version for China of the same movie. And it has to fit. So it's very limited, but he gave me a link to it. He just got a bank in California gave him, I think it was $500 billion loan to start producing in the United States. And he has a match offer from China. So they're another one now that's trying to gobble up the world of movies. Hollywood's not the only place anymore.
Hey, the next big place is going to be Yonkers there, John, right? Lionsgate.
Yeah, I saw that. My sister sent it to me. That's interesting.
Yeah, Lionsgate's going to open a big studio in Yonkers. It's interesting.
I actually started a movie that was a script that was in Yonkers, and I never really went on with it, but I know the town pretty good, so it would be pretty easy to do that.
Well, I think there's some cheap real estate, a lot of that commercial space, everything. The town and the county's hungry, right, for something like that. So I think it's a good move. Close enough to New York City, but it'll be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it would be, definitely, without a doubt. And again, they're giving big tax breaks down there too. Yeah. I haven't been down Getty Square area where that is since 1970.
Oh wow!
A long time.
Interesting. Long time. Yeah, I just hope they don't knock down the White Castle. I mean, occasionally I got to swing by there.
Yeah, that's true. Got to have the White Castles. Got to have those landmarks in the movies too.
Sure.
So, John, I'm surprised you didn't write a script about anything to do with your football days.
You know what it is, and I told my friends this who always ask me, "You want to come back and coach?" Two things. One, I did it for. It's a consuming job. It's 18 hours a day for 45 years. Okay, and enough. You know what I'm saying? When I put it down, I said I'm putting it down. And two, the game has changed so much that I don't even recognize the things around it anymore. I mean, one of the guys in one of the scripts was an ex-football player, but that's about as far as I've gotten. But he could have been an wrestler or something like that, just the same way. It would have made a difference. It was just that he was an athlete. So, but it's nothing there interests me. I do have an idea for a baseball one because I play baseball too, but it's more of a parallel universe type thing. So that you can completely make up the league like they did in The Natural and things like that, and be more mythical than you can be, factual. So getting the New York Yankees to allow you to use their name is very expensive. Getting the Gotham Bears to use their name, there is none, so you could use it. So, Christine, have you been produced yet?
I wrote, directed, and produced my own 4 indie feature films. 3 were
Okay.
on Netflix.
On Netflix?
Netflix, yeah. 3 horror.
Okay. Okay. Good. How'd you get them on Netflix? They're hard to get on Netflix, they said. It's one of the
Well,
hardest.
that was through my first distributor.
Okay.
And then I tried to get them on Canadian Netflix, and they said they would only go through, a distributor. They don't deal with filmmakers.
It's amazing to me, and your films obviously aren't in this category, but that when you look at Netflix, you look at it, and I'm sure you've done this too, when you couldn't get your ones on in the beginning, said, they got that on there and I can't get my hand on there, because there are a lot of scripts that just don't make sense on Netflix. So I actually watched the last episode of The Terminator, because I watched every other one in my life. And that might be the worst written script I've ever seen in my life. That might be the worst written script I've ever seen in my life. It was, all it was cliche after cliche after cliche after cliche after cliche after cliche. You could like build it with Legos if you wanted to. So, but
Do you guys think with all the streaming services now, content, Apple's got its own now, and there's so many, is the demand for content getting bigger? Will there be more vehicles for your work, John, and your work, Christine, or is the supply still outpacing the demand?
Well, I checked into how to get my movies onto Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems you have to have described dialogue, which is extremely expensive to do. It's at least $1,000 per film. So, and I haven't heard anybody talking about, making a lot of money on Amazon Prime. So I'm not going there right now.
I just read something by a producer on Amazon Prime who said the exact same thing. He said he makes less than 5% off of his films because of what Amazon costs and all the different fees and everything else. He said it's not a good place to put your films on.
Okay.
He said Netflix was a very good. Actually, there's a contest, if you guys know about it. It's the Imagine Netflix one. It used to be the Ron Howard Imagine one. I don't know if you guys ever did that one. It's Ron Howard has it. He did it. He did one a year for the past 2 years. And what it does is you have to submit a script, a 30-second video about yourself in a script. That's pretty tough. I tried it. Bio, why you write. And he said, I went here or I went there. He goes, I want to know why you write. And then they narrow it down. Now he's teamed up with Netflix, and every month or 2 months, they're asking for a different genre. The last one that was just today, it was today. Today is 6th? No, yesterday was the 6th, right? Today's the 6th, right? Today's the last day. You can send it in for action thriller. But it was a catch. It has to be a family action thriller, whatever that means. So, family action thriller. And yeah, well, it's tough to make an action thriller. That's PG. But then they had they're having a new one come out by July 20th. They're going to ask for something else. So somebody said that's going to be drama, crime, something else. I don't know if it is. There is going to be a rom-com, whatever they call it, category in one of the ones. And they're open for a month right after they announce it. So you have to have your script ready. But he's done a lot. He was the guy who actually started all that stuff with actually just having contests for scripts that weren't really contests. It's free. Doesn't cost anything to enter. And I know a couple of people who made it to the finals one of the years. So I'll probably do the other ones. But it's Imagine Netflix, it's called. It's by Ron Howard. If you look up Ron Howard Imagine, you'll end up finding it. So there's a lot of contests out there. In answer to what Christine said about or you said it about the more, you asked about the more content, I think there is. I mean, I read something when I applied for the Nichols that said last year in the world there were 12 million scripts written. That just seems like an awful lot of scripts.
Yeah.
You know, that's short scripts and everything, but that seems like an awful lot of scripts when you think of how many are going to get made.
Sure.
I think they had the percentages 1 out of 150 get optioned and 1 out of 500 get produced or something like that. It was some crazy number like that.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy doing it though. If I didn't enjoy doing it, I couldn't do this as a job.
Sure.
You know, it's like you do it because you enjoy it.
Yep.
Sure, Christine enjoys it.
So my feature films, they're all family friendly. There's no blood, guts, gore, nudity, or swearing. But I didn't realize at the time when I made I think my first and second one, that smoking raises the rating.
Right.
So I had no smoking in the third and fourth one.
And it's actually, if you go to, what's the name of the rating council that does it? The ones that put out the ratings, the MP, whatever it is.
Motion picture, what does it stand for? AA, I forget what it is.
Yeah.
MPAA, yeah.
If you go to your site, there's an extra thing you can download. It tells you smoking will get you an R automatically. How many F-bombs you can put in to keep it as a PG to an R. There isn't one or two are allowed in a PG nowadays. How many other curses you can put in? What kind of nudity you can put in? It's because when they did the movie, Matt Damon was talking about the movie, what's the one where he's in Boston? He plays the janitor, Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, yeah.
He said, when they were talking about the script when he first brought it, he said to him, do we have any chance about being PG? And he says, you're 55 F-bombs over the number, you know, so there is a number that's accepted, which surprised me nowadays, but then again, you turn on regular. I have no nudity in mine.
My romantic comedy deals with a woman, two women selling dildos, so that's not a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that's yours?
My romantic comedy, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Do they fall in love with a dildo?
No, they don't fall in love. There's a conflict between the male interest.
We were laughing. Somebody had me laughing. We were just talking about diversity and stuff, and everybody complains now that if you cast an African American role, it has to be an African American playing it. If you cast an Indian role, it has to be that. And it was just the thing in a paper I read about. What's the guy's name? Anyway, he was in a movie, and it actually he was supposed to be the only white guy in the movie. It's made in Mexico. And the people perceived that it was supposed to be a Mexican role, and they made him shut down the movie. But I had a laugh the other day because a friend of mine says, well, with all this, it has to be, he goes, remember the movie Herb with Joaquin Phoenix, where he falls in love with the Seri type character?
Sure. Well,
that's a machine. Is a human allowed to play a machine?
Yeah. It's a great point. A lot of the there's white voiceover actors and actresses are now stepping down from not voicing certain comics, cartoons. Yeah, it's all that stuff.
I wonder how much they're really stepping down and how much they were told you are stepping down.
Yeah, I know.
So it's interesting. It definitely is interesting. So, a whole different world out there now.
Yeah, but by the way, that movie Her, which I thought was really an excellent film. What I read about that is the AI voice is Scarlett Johansson, but originally it was a different no-name woman actress, and after they made the film, it just didn't feel like it worked, and they brought her in to come and redub the whole set of lines.
As well.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, man, if you're that actress who did that film, did the whole thing, and at the end they replace you because you never see her on film. Otherwise, you couldn't replace the lead actress. She is the lead actress in that film and got replaced, in post.
Wow, that's wow.
Yeah.
I just read something the other day. There was an article by the one that's just out about the what do you call it? The bringing the slaves from the south to the north. But Harriet Truman is that her name? I forgot.
Harriet Tubman. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, when the African American, he looked at the script and it didn't specify, so he called Julia Roberts for the role. Julia Roberts, crazy. I don't think I'd fit into that role very well. I just think that's funny. There's a lot of things like that. Yeah. But the characters, the actors really make the thing right. I mean, you couldn't have certain actors play De Niro's parts. They just wouldn't fit in. So what contests do you guys enter?
Yeah, so John, I'm brand new, so I'm listening and learning. So sorry, I have nothing to share with you there.
How about you, Christine? You enter any of them?
Well, I put 2 in this year for the nickel.
Okay.
I can't remember when that one lets you know.
I think they said the end of July, beginning of August, I think it was, because I put 1 in. But the 1 in, after I reread it, it's funny, we learn as we go, because I'm not that experienced. And you learn, and then also you look back at what you wrote before and you say, that was wrong, that was bad. So the one I put in, I don't think should even make it to the finals, but I think it's much better now. That's the one I just put into the Philadelphia one. That's the top one. But yeah, I had that one. Now, Christine, let me ask you this. There's a whole cottage industry that preys on screenwriters nowadays. You have the coverage people. Half of them are people who have never gotten a script published in their life, and they're going to tell you what's wrong with yours. You have the all the websites that cost money. You have all the contests out there. I have a calendar that gives me all the contests, and every day there's 5 listed.
At least.
There's a whole cottage industry out there for that takes advantage of that. I mean, even the books. I mean, I try to read a book all the time. I always try to have a book on screenwriting in front of me, but I only read certain people. I read like Linda Seeger and Laura Aronson, or like Troutman on formatting, or McKee, those kind of people. Although McKee, you have to keep a dictionary near you when you read the book. But, what do you think about this whole cottage industry that has sprung up? And I think it basically preys on it. I mean, I did a lot of this stuff when I first started, and I realized people were telling me, don't put money there. It's a waste of money. So what do you think of all that?
And the big thing is all of these people trying to teach you about pitching.
Oh, yeah, that's the one too.
And I don't feel I would be good enough to pitch. Now, I had at one time these people in Toronto. I can't remember where I was. This couple came up to me and they said that they were agents and they wanted me to take me on as an actor for television commercials. And so I used to go to Toronto 2 or 3 times a week for these television commercials. But the thing is, I couldn't remember because they'd send you the night before, up to 4 pages, and you had to remember all of these scripts. Like I can write the scripts, but I can't memorize them. That's why I was never an actor. I had cameos in my last 3 movies, but I never acted in them.
I don't think I could act. I'd probably start laughing all the time.
No, I would keep freezing up. I'd forget and freeze up.
Yeah, but they like you said, there's all those people out there. Half the ones that want to teach you about pitching, never got a screenplay through the pitch themselves, if you know what I mean. So I tried stage 30 through 32 with the written pitch once. And it was funny because the person sent me back and said, John, it's an excellent concept. And then he said, I just want to tell you that I have never had a pitch this well written. My sister did it because she worked for IBM as an executive. So she did the pitch for me. And then he said, but we're kind of full right now. I was like, okay, why am I even doing this? First of all, there were 3 weeks after they said I was supposed to get it. And then the answer was very terse. It was only like 4 lines when they said that. And I was like, why am I even doing this? You get no feedback from them. At least the ones I meet on LinkedIn, like I'll ask them. One guy was very blunt with me. He said, John, it's an excellent script, but it's all written too passively. You need to change all the writing to active. So I said, okay, and I did it. And the way he said it was kind of insulting, but I could accept criticism. Being a coach allows you to do that,
Yep.
So, John, how do you find those producers on LinkedIn? What do you search under?
I just search producers, movies, etc. And then once you get 1 or 2, you go to, I'm not even a member there yet. You get a free month, and I'm just waiting until I rewrite these 5 scripts, and I'm going to put pitch sheets together for all of them, make it exact, and then I'm going to go back on there and match the producer. But let's say, for example, I searched and I got you as a producer, okay, or even a director. It says underneath it, you can click on, just like you can at Facebook, their friends or their contacts. Well, if you're a producer for Netflix, you might put in your answer, I'm not taking any new scripts. And some of them do, right in it. But if you just click that on, you find all their friends, and those people have very high contacts. So like right now, I've never joined it, and I have 2,500 and something contacts. And every one of them, except for maybe 10 that are related to coaching, that are friends of mine, are related to movies. So as soon as I finish this, I'll go back through, start at the beginning again, and I'll put together an individual letter for each one. I'll go to IMDb, see what movies they make, and try to match the producer with the movie, which I didn't do the first time. I was bad the first time. I didn't match it. And sometimes you lose a good producer doing that way for a future project because you sent him something that isn't in it. Like, you can't send a Hallmark movie to Scorsese, and you can't send Scorsese's movies to Hallmark. And if you sent the Hallmark to Scorsese, the next one you send him, he'd probably say, I'm not going to read her stuff. She doesn't even know what I write, So, but that's the way you do it. It's not bad. And then on Facebook, there's like, right now I'm on a good 10 different groups that are all related to either independent filmmaking or screenwriting. And every now and then you'll get a producer set. Like there was just one today, but I didn't have anything. It said, looking for action flick, gave the budget. It was under 2.5 million. Has to be set in one of these cities, et cetera, et cetera. So, you get those every now and then in there.
So how did you find me? Where did you find me?
I don't even know.
Because I posted it on LinkedIn and Facebook and Stage 32 and Reddit.
I found it on Stage 32.
Okay.
Stage 32. I think Stage 32, you get a lot of good advice. I really do. Except when they get into their little turf battles, and those things are funny that go on forever. The one guy got on there one day and said, you realize this argument has been going on for 6 years if you look at the original post, So that was something stupid about how to format something. So,
but John Manna.
Yeah.
John Manna.
Yes.
I was going to say the one thing for your short script that you have to be very succinct with is your log line.
Yeah.
Because like I said, Inktip will let you post your log lines for your short script. So then you would need to know the genre and, how many pages it is. And I would also include how many characters and locations there are after the log line, because you have so many words that you can use if
Sure.
your log line doesn't take that up.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Yep. Been doing a lot of research on the formatting and the log lines and things like that. So yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
All right, that's a downfall for me.
Well, you got
I
you
just-
got your sister though.
No, she's not good with log line.
No.
My sister's
Yeah.
great editor. She writes great speeches for people. But when it comes to pure creativity at times, she gets very rote and formal, and it just doesn't match up. Like I will not let her correct my dialogue, except for punctuation. It has to, I mean, this could be a guy in Brooklyn, and I love her. She's the greatest person in the world. She does all this work for me. She's sort of late the other night so I can get the one in from Philly. But she had the one guy, and he's a Southeast Philly Italian. You know what I'm saying? In a tough neighborhood, it's in the neighborhood bar, and they're talking, and she ended up talking King's English, if you know what I mean. I mean, every thought it's in there, and I'm like, Pat, they don't talk this way. All my friends do, and I'm like, no, they don't talk this way down in there. So, you know, but no, log lines are not my forte, and I know that because I keep trying to write them over and over again. I keep getting carried away, keep expanding.
Yeah, but that's a good point. You know, one of the things I have been reading a bunch of scripts and also reading the log lines, and it is interesting. Some movies that feel real complicated, you look at the log line and you're like, oh man, that's beautifully simple.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
I think I was reading the log line for Forrest Gump the other day. Like, how do you do a log line for Forrest Gump? And sure enough, I forget what it was, but it made sense. It was like one sentence and it made sense.
People who do them well. The people who do them well.
Yeah, it's an art. Well, hey, I've got to split off, gang, but this has been fantastic for me. I appreciate it. John, I've already reached out to you in LinkedIn,
Okay.
connected with you there. And Christine, can't thank you enough. I'll keep an eye open for your next sessions.
Yes, it's the first and third Monday of the month, and horror writing and filmmakers are the fourth Monday of the month. But you said you don't do horror, so.
Correct. I mean, I actually do like horror. The type of horror movies I like tend to be a little bit less slasher and a little bit more, you know, The Others, The Witch.
Stephen King stuff you like, right?
Creep
Psychological?
me out a little bit, you know. Yeah, pull me in from a mood perspective, kind of creep me out a little bit, right? Don't hit me over the head with a hammer, right? So there's foreign film, Let the Right One In, that I thought was great about vampires, by the way. And John, you should check out Christine's films. It looked like a ton of fun. Vampire Dentist.
Vampire
Dentist. And,
24-hour dental office for humans and vampires, teeth and fangs. The
really great
novella will be out
imagination.
later this year.
Oh, really?
What will be out later this year?
The novella, the novel.
Oh, okay.
I'm working on
novels too, huh?
Well, my scripts, I'm turning them all into novels.
Okay.
Adapting them.
Oh, good.
So I'm working on 6 right now. So that's a great learning process, turning a script into a novel, because it's entirely different way of writing.
It definitely is. I tell my sister, she wants to try to write scripts, and I tell her she should write novels because she's very wordy. And you have to be able to explain every single thing in there. You know, you could take it into a person's mind and tell them what's going on in their mind and stuff and everything like that.
Yes, you have to be the art director and the production designer and the landscaper and the painter and everything else for a novel. You leave all that up for your crew in a script.
The good thing though, it's your world. You could write anything you want in there. The house could look a certain way, anything, because it doesn't have. You don't have to go find that house, you know.
Well, the first part of Vampire Dentist was published in the Horror Writers of Ontario's first anthology. So it has been published, and another anthology is looking to publish that part of it too.
Good, good, very good. Very
And
good.
I just had a flash fiction story just purchased, which gave me the idea to write a series along those lines, a flash fiction in that location. So, and turn them into short scripts.
How many pages are your short scripts? Let me ask you that.
They're usually 3, 4, 5 pages.
Okay.
I write shorts, yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading something today. It could be anywhere from 1 page to 30 pages, they were saying. I mean, that's a wide range.
I have a 1-page horror script.
Do you really? And that has the beginning, the end, and the middle all on 1 page?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, hey, love the brainstorming and the creativity. So really appreciate it. Thanks again, Christine, for setting it up. I will look to attend a future session. Thanks for all the homework, and John as well. Got a lot of notes here. I've got
Okay. Well, good luck.
good things. I appreciate it, and
Yes.
I will see you again soon.
Good.
Thank you, Christine, too. And let me know when the next one is, okay?
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
attending.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.